Hello and welcome, guys. As promised, this is going to be my little bit more in-depth and somewhat spoilery review of The Northman, which I was really lucky to get to see on Friday. If anybody saw my very quick reaction video, you know how much I enjoyed this film. So what I thought I would do is just take a little bit of time and just kind of give my initial thoughts on the film, what I thought of the cast, what I thought of the director, Robert Eggers. So, as you can probably guess, I really enjoyed the film. I had incredibly high hopes for it. Big fan of his previous films. So this one, I really thought that, given the scope and given that he had a much bigger budget to work with, he was really going to go all out with this and do the best possible that he could with this, and he did. This film, as I said, had a budget of about $90 million, so it gave him a lot more to play with, and he really used it to his advantage. He has a fantastic cast. Um, Standout for me, obviously, is Skarsgård. Alexander Skarsgård is monumental in this. He really put his all into playing Arnulf, not just physicality. Um, he looks great, he really does. But it's the scenes where he really doesn't say a lot, and he conveys it with his eyes, with his mannerisms. That was impressive, just as much as when he's brawling and when he's um, psyching himself up to be the berserker that he becomes. Um, but I thought he was fantastic. Just a quick kind of covery of the plot. It is the pretty much the same that we've always known. It is Prince Arnulf. His father is killed by his uncle. His mother is then taken, as we initially think, prisoner by his uncle, and Arnulf swears revenge. He will not stop until he takes his uncle out and rescues his mother and gets his kingdom back. That's his sole purpose, he decides. And this is pretty much the entire plot. It's not a complex plot, but that's not a bad thing because we really get to see the motivations behind a lot of the characters, and some of the characters aren't quite what you think they are going to be. Particularly Nicole Kidman's character, who she plays the Queen. You think that at the beginning of the film she is quite demure, and she's very much in love with her husband, who's played by Ethan Hawke, and she loves her son. But by the end of the film, if anybody knows the story of Hamlet, you'll know that she isn't what she seems at all, and she actually orchestrated it. She wanted to be with with his brother, which was a nice twist. Well, not a twist, but a nice way for her. And it's great to see Nicole Kidman playing a more kind of devious role, I guess would be the best way to put it. But I was surprised. I thought she was really good, and she has one of the best kind of standout scenes in the film against Skarsgård, where they kind of face off against each other, and he doesn't want to believe her to begin with, and she quite quickly finds a way to convince him otherwise. Other fantastic parts of the cast for me, the standout, other than Skarsgård himself, was Claire's Bang, who played Fjolnir, his uncle. Not an actor that I was familiar with, I've got to admit, but I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. Um, I look forward to seeing him in more things. I thought he was brilliant. We also had Anya Taylor-Joy, who has been in previous Robert Eggers films. She was in The Witch. She plays Olga. Quite a demure role for her. And I think one of the criticisms a lot of people will come up with is that she really doesn't bring much to the plot. She's really there to kind of help Emleth along. But I don't think that's a bad thing because she is the one above all others who helps him reconnect with his humanity, and they really have great chemistry together. And she's a really good actress anyway. I really like her for the roles that she plays. So it was great to see her back in working with a director that she clearly has a really good rapport with. Somebody else who was in this who I love was Willem Dafoe. Now, I was a little bit disappointed. There were a few points of this film that I think really could have stood a little bit more. And Willem Dafoe's role for me was one of it. He's in it, but he's barely in it, and it's such a waste because he is a fantastic actor and he plays a really great role as well. I would have loved to have seen just a little bit more of him, a little bit more character development. But the few scenes that he is in, he really does kind of steal them. So it's great to see him as always. But yeah, I was surprised. I think the cast works really well. The one thing that also is fantastic is the music that they use. Now, this is a little bit different. They used this time it was composed by Robin Corlan and Sebastian Gainsborough, and it's got this fast, heavy drum beat throughout. It almost, if you're in the cinema, it almost just kind of bashes you over the head with the sound. Um, it's something. It's a spectacle in itself, and I've already ordered on vinyl the soundtrack. It's so good, but it's really got this underlying beat all the way through with this frantic drums. And once you either get the battle scenes, or if you get the kind of more psychedelic, trippy scenes that Eggers is so well known for, that's when everything kind of ramps up, and it's really great use of music and a great score. I really enjoyed it, but like I said, it really does kind of beat you with the music. It was I enjoyed it though. um, a lot of people will ask, is this particularly brutal? Is it particularly gory? Yes and no. There are definitely some very brutal scenes. One of my favourite scenes comes quite early on in the film, where we finally meet the grown man that Amleth becomes, and he is a Viking berserker. It's worth noting that never in the film is the word Viking used. Um, but he's referred to as Northman a couple of times, and other names he's given. But he's with this band of berserkers, and they're psyching themselves up, and it's great to see them like take on. They're calling on the spirits of wolves and bears, and they goes on to this attack of a village, and it's just this one long sweeping take where it follows Skarsgård throughout the throughout the attack, where he takes down villagers, and then as it winds down and they're taking prisoners and they're dispatching people, you can see the kind of regret on his face dawning when he realizes kind of what's happened. Um, it's a really effective scene, and this is also where we see one of the other characters I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of. It's a sort of Cirrus, I suppose, played by Bjork. She doesn't have a massive role, but the role that she does do, she really does nail it, and she looks great. She's got this fantastic headdress on, um, which I really liked. It was great to see her. Um, for the ladies, I know a lot of people will be asking, is Skarsgård looking great? And he is, he looks fantastic. But for the majority of the film, he is covered in either mud, gore, or blood. Uh, so you don't get to see as much of him as you might think. But he's definitely really worked out for this role. He was pretty lean and cut when he played Tarzan, but he's bulked up for this role. He looks fantastic. So hats off to him for that one. Um, I suppose the best thing to say is, who will this appeal to? I would say this would appeal to anybody who is really looking for a masculine film, a film that doesn't pull any punches. Uh, there is no forced diversity. It is just a very simple story told with a fantastic cast by a director that I have come to respect a lot. I'm really hoping that it does very well at the box office. It had a okay opening weekend over here, but it didn't break any records. Uh, Fingers crossed that word of mouth will start to spread. But Eggers is kind of one of those niche directors. I'm hoping that this film really kind of launches his career and he gets to do a lot bigger projects, because he really does have a fantastic eye and he does bring out the absolute best in his cast. Um, I've been a fan for pretty much throughout, so I will be keeping an eye on if there's, when the next film comes out, what he comes up with. Really, really talented guy. Um, So, absolutely, guys, if you are considering seeing this film, or if you've already seen it, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. But for me, I would give it out of 10, probably a 9. As I say, there are a couple of little things that I didn't particularly like. I thought that we could have done with more Willem Dafoe. Um, some of the cameos we could have done with a little bit, just slightly more of this amazing cast that we had. And I think a lot of people will say that the plot is a little bit too simplistic, but for me it was fine. It is a revenge story. It basically it's how far will somebody go to get revenge for a wrong that's been done to them, and you can get what you want, but ultimately you will lose what you had. So it is a simple story, but it is a also timeless story. There's a reason Shakespeare used it as inspiration for Hamlet. So, guys, as I say, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Very much enjoyed this film. Uh, we'll get it on Blu-ray when it comes out, and I will probably see it again in the cinema whilst it's still available. Um, any other films that I would say closely resemble it? A lot of people will say, is it like Conan? It is. I would say Conan is the better film, but it's definitely kind of up there. I think eventually this film will be a classic in its own right. And another film that is very close to this is called Valhalla Rising, which I would also highly recommend. It's a great film if you like the kind of historical, more realistic Viking genre. So, guys, let me know what you think of the review. If you enjoyed it, if you'd like me to do more of these stars, let me know in the comments below. And if you do plan to see the film, let me know as well, because I think you're going to really enjoy it. So, thank you everyone for watching, and have a fantastic day. Mwah.